The Anglo-Saxon is a right-wing commentator who comments on New Zealand politics. Recently, I decided to watch one of his videos. I was not impressed. Just watch.
Keep in mind that while one communist dictator, Nicolas Maduro, is locked away under arrest and facing trial, another is free-ranging at large, globe-trotting around the world with apparent impunity, at one point working for Harvard, and now even applying for a job with the United Nations. She won't dare come back here at the moment, but under a Labour communist coalition, who knows? I mean, look at Helen Clark. The silly old fossil is the go-to whenever Radio New Zealand wants some vomit-inducing Marxist propaganda from a dyed-in-the-wool communist. With the stakes so high, it's worth thinking about the ideologies that differentiate between the left and the right, and review why communist ideology is inherently and immutably flawed. Besides my own theories, communism has a clear track record of causing economic decline and historically has never achieved the classless level playing field that it aims for. New Zealand is no exception. Prior to 1840, New Zealanders were ruled over by a tiny communist aristocracy, a lot closer to Karl Marx's imagined utopia or George Orwell's realistic hellscape than most people realise.
Blah, blah, blah. Why do so many of these right-wing commentators sound exactly the same as one another? It is all the same copy-pasted talking points with no original thoughts whatsoever. They never say anything interesting or surprising. Ardern is a communist. Ardern is a communist. Wow, how insightful. I have only heard that one about 1 million times. How can anyone take this drivel seriously? It is laughable. Claiming Jacinda Ardern and Helen Clark are communists. Really? Combined, they spent about 14 years governing the country, and in case you didn't notice, at no point did we become communist. Jacinda Ardern had total control of Parliament from 2020 to 2022, and yet she never made us a communist country. Almost like she wasn't a communist. She was a moderate liberal. For God's sake, she wouldn't even introduce a capital gains tax. She considered that to be too radical. The idea that she was a communist is as ridiculous as it gets. This is the equivalent of claiming that John Key and Christopher Luxon are fascists. It is incredibly dumb. How can a person even say this with a straight face? It is like an insult to our intelligence to tell us this kind of absolute crap. I have never claimed Key or Luxon are fascists because I am not a mindless fool. And calling Helen Clark a communist is hilarious. One of Helen Clark's main objectives was reducing government debt, something that she achieved. In fact, in the last 50 years, Helen Clark's government was the only government to do a good job reducing government debt and running consecutive budget surpluses. She was very fiscally responsible. You would think a right-winger who pretends to care about that issue might be willing to give her some credit. But of course not, because these people are mindless partisan hacks. Their commentary never goes beyond throwing around terms that they don't even understand. They are not familiar with what these leaders actually did. Helen Clark was a much better economic manager than Luxon or Key, even by right-wing metrics. That is just a fact. She was the only Prime Minister this century who made a serious effort to reduce the national debt. But the right will not give her a drop of credit, because it is just a tribal partisan game for clowns like this. It is a team sport. It is not about the future of the country. It is just about screeching insults at people you dislike. It is political commentary in its crudest and dumbest form. Did this clown get a lobotomy for Christmas? Also, quoting Orwell is hilarious. George Orwell was a self-proclaimed socialist who hated fascists so much that he went to Spain to kill them. He fought alongside communists in pursuit of that objective. This idiocy is what happens when your politics is based on shallow talking points, with no understanding of history or political theory whatsoever.